All right, so today I'm going to talk about trusting the unknown and how it's really who you really are. The unknown is what you are. You are infinite potential, you are the universe, and people often don't feel safe to trust the unknown because all they know is the known. All they know is basically what happens is our separate self-ego, our fear-based ego, creates strategies in order to stay in control, in order to feel like it will get what it wants, that it will have its needs met. And so if that's all you know yourself as, then you will always be in a mode of manipulation, calculation, right? Trying to predict the future by laying down kind of safety pads for yourself. If there's a part of you that really feels like the only way that it will be lovable would be to look a certain way or to be a certain weight, part of your mind might always be trying to control and calculate, the calories, the exercise. And I'm speaking from experience, like that's the way the eating disorder ego operates. It's very controlling. It's always trying to, limit the experience of the person by keeping it safe within this tunnel of very finite possibilities. Like, oh, eat only this food, eat at this time, don't go to that party because you might want to, you might get tempted with food. Like, at least in my experience, it was a very controlling experience. So our fear-based ego tries to protect us because all it knows is feeling helpless, basically, right? If you're a child, this is where your ego gets formed. If you're a child and you feel like everything is bigger than you, everything is bigger than you, everything's more powerful than you, and you're alone in this universe, and you don't know that you are the infinite intelligence of the universe, the only option you have is to control and plan and manipulate. And sometimes, like I said, manipulation looks like seduction. Manipulation looks like even making yourself sick to make other people take care of you. Manipulation can look like, spinning and acting helpless, the damsel in distress. Like, there's lots of ways that our ego keeps us small, keeps us limited, keeps us collapsed in this understanding that we're in danger and that we are being threatened, so we must create realities around us to protect us. So I talk in many videos that really self-realization is the antidote to all of that, to realizing what you are and to bringing that realization to the parts of yourself that don't yet know that. So when I meditate, I go into the void and I go into like the blackness, right? If you close your eyes, you take yourself to blackness. Maybe you actually project yourself into deep space and you let this blackness consume you. You let it consume you, you merge with it, you let it dissolve you, right? You no longer feel like there's a you in the void, you are the void. So I'm telling you this because it's easier to anchor this into your everyday life and into all the corners of your psyche if you really know this in a feeling, in an experiential way. So I would meditate in the void and all of a sudden, right, something started beginning to happen. The void is not actually a void. It's not actually empty. It's actually this fabric full of potential. And so for me, the void started appearing as illuminated, like this. So from the fabric of the blackness, all of a sudden, all of these sparkles appeared. And all of a sudden, like I was the blackness, but then I'd be surrounded by like starlight. And I realized that all the lights were potentials. Potentials, and you could even say lifetimes. But so the only way you can see that, right, is if you are that, is if you take yourself there. One way to do it is by meditation or visualization, by bringing yourself into that state with your eyes closed at first, right? Familiarizing yourself with that, letting the vibration entrain you, letting the vibration of infinite potential begin to entrain all the parts of your being, so that that realization can kind of make its way into the manifested world, into your personal mind, your emotional body, into your physical body. So the separate self, right? So the self that we create to protect ourselves, that's controlling and manipulating. Basically what it does is that it takes what it knows, what it has seen, what it has learned, and it tries to replicate it. That's all it can do. That's the level of consciousness that it has. If it believes it's separate from life, which is actually infinite potential, infinite resources, infinite energy, if it doesn't know that, right, the best it can do is take something that it has learned in the physical world, take something, a concept or an example from your own past, and replicate it. That's all it can do. It can only replicate the known. That's the only thing that would ever occur to it, because that's its level of consciousness. It operates in time, which is the known, which is something you've seen, something. So, for example, many people believe the only way, like this represents kind of the past or time, the only way to get money is if I get this education, if I, the only way to get clients is if I do this kind of marketing. The only way to get money is if I even create a business. The only way to have money is if I network in this specific way. A lot of things, a big one for a lot of spiritual people is that they take everything that they've ever learned, as soon as like they understand a concept, or as soon as something dawns on them, they immediately try to monetize it. So like the separate self is like, okay, I get it now. Now I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna package it and sell it. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm not saying don't create a business. I'm not saying don't have clients. I'm not saying don't repackage, something. But this is how the separate self works. It is only concerned with what it can get. What it can get. In a way, you could call it greed, right? It's like some people scour information, some people do research just so that they can repackage it and make money. And if you're sensitive and you pay attention to teachers, you feel like a different energy on somebody who's just kind of doing that versus somebody who has deeply applied all of these things, and the energy in their field is emanating like truth and understanding, right? And so what's going on there? Well, the separate self, and the thing is that might work out for them. Like they might have success doing it that way, in other words, they might make money, but will they be happy? No, because we can only be happy if we know ourselves to be the field full of sparkles, full of infinite potential, So the separate self can only take what it has learned and replicate it. Boom, 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 boom. So that, if you are only identified as a separate self, that's all you'll ever try to do. And it will always feel stressful. It'll always make you feel tight. It will always, you will literally watch your mind try to put images in its, in your mind's eye. Your stressed mind, your separate mind will try to impose scenarios. Well, it's either has to be this, or it has to be this, or it has to be this. So let's say you want to go on a trip. Let's say you want to go on a trip, but you don't have the money right now. But you really want to go on the trip. And so the mind is like, okay, well, in order for me to have the money by this time, I'm going to have to do X, Y, and Z. And then you get at it. You start doing that. So right in that moment, you're in an understanding of separation. right? Part of you believes that it has to, you know, utilize something that it has learned. And by the way, that can be inspired. Inspiration can work with things that you know in order to manifest, but you will know in the moment. Like, you know, I used to only choose the vacations that I would go on if I had a gym, if I had like what was available to me as choices were only based on what would make me feel sane, what would make my routine. And so I would try to replicate it, right? I would go somewhere new, and I've traveled a lot, I've lived abroad and everything, but I would still try to replicate my routine, because my routine is a loop, like a train going around a track. That helps me feel safe, like I'm still on the track. So one way to begin to like practically get out of time, get out of habit. Habit is time. Habit is routine. Habit is the known. Look at how you have planned things out. I love in A Course in Miracles, it says a healed mind doesn't plan, because when you're not planning, you're actually available to ideas. It's like, let's say you eat at the same restaurant every day out of habit, or maybe it is out of control. Like, you know that you like that place, so it's safe because like, well, my money will be worth it and I know I'll be satisfied. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's say that's where you're making your decisions from. It's like, well, this habitual thought. So, but meanwhile, you've had this idea to try this other place, right? It keeps popping in. And inspired thoughts tend to pop in or even drop in or even bubble up. Like, they tend to feel spontaneous. They bubble up or they drop in. They don't feel like a loop, like the train track, like a habit. That's what a habit is. So to begin to bring yourself out of time, begin to see where you feel to the best of your ability, like, where am I habitual? Where am I kind of locking myself in habit? And where can I let that go a little bit? Where can I let that go a little bit? What if I actually listen to that impulse to try the other place? Because it might not even be about the food. It might be about someone that you will meet there, right? So the habitual mind keeps your vision, keeps you in a tunnel vision where all of your energy and attention is siphoned into time and the known. So your bandwidth, you're not available to other stuff that's occurring to you, ideas that are popping up to you. You dismiss them as like, nah. You're not dismissing them. Your controlling self is dismissing them, right? So in order to be available to those inspired impulses, and you need to, you know, begin to remove yourself from shoulds, from needs, from habits, from any kind of gridlocked like habit that you have that is stressful, keeps you tight, keeps you small, and keeps you unavailable to information coming in. The universe is a hologram. Like, everything is holographic. So when you are vibrating in infinite potential, you will reflect infinite potential in your experience. So that's why when you're in the knowing of yourself as infinite potential, the things that come in your life and the best things that ever happened to you can never be calculated. They can't be calculated. They can't be planned, because it's a holographic image reflecting to you that it came from the unknown. It came from the unknown. So, like, if you think about some of the best things that have ever happened to you, could you have even begun to plan them or to predict them or to control them? Like, all the best things that have ever happened to me were things that I could not have planned if I tried. So being the unknown is what you want. It's who you are. It's what you want to experience. It's fun. It's fun to literally feel yourself as this sparkling fabric of potential, and that feels joyful, and that you can use images and visualization to anchor this. And if you're if some of your senses, like your extrasensory senses, if you have strong feeling and strong image, which I do, I use image and feeling. Like, I will literally like sometimes feel myself as like this glittering light that's attached to a web of glittering light, and me as the individual emanation of the field and the field, we're all glittering together. And I just feel myself as this glittering light being that's attached, that's an emanation of, that's connected to this glittering light fabric. And that somatically to me feels amazing. Practice walking as it, right? So you want to go there with your eyes closed and you want to walk as it. You want to walk as it. And if there's parts of you that habitually pull you out of it, give them a little attention and say, what do I believe about myself? What is taking me out of this present moment? What is the belief that I have about myself? There's a part of you that believes that if it loses its hold, if it loses its predictability, its knowns, that it will die, basically, right? So when you're trying to let something go and you feel nervous about it, you feel unsafe, go into the feeling and like ask that part of you, like, how is it that you feel? What are you believing about yourself? And then show it like this glittering light matrix. Like, remember, this is who we are. We are the unknown. We are infinite potential. And what's so beautiful about this is that we're actually not trying to get anything. Like, what we really want is to know what we are. So when new energy starts entering your life, right? Whether it's new ideas, ideas to go to a new place, new people are coming into your life, new information is coming into your life, new realizations are coming into your life, like new things are occurring to you, that means that you're in the resonance or the vibration of the field. Because when you're only in habit and memory and routine, like it literally feels like Groundhog's Day. You're living the same, because you're in that tube, you're in that train track. It's actually more like a tube. Like, you can't see anything other than the data that is informing your experience. So if all the data that is informing my experience is, well, I'm going to plan this, I'm going to go there, I'm going to eat this. If you're deciding ahead of time, if your fear-based conditioning is trying to decide everything ahead of time, you're in a tunnel where you are not available to this. You're not available to this, and you're not available to the ways that it's talking to you, right? And how is it talking to you? It's talking to you in images, ideas, realizations. They bubble up from you, like the depths of you. It occurs to you as like just a natural desire, maybe to like slow down, or a natural disinterest in remaining stuck in a habit. Maybe you've been exercising the same way your whole life, but it's beginning to like feel boring to you, and you're like, maybe I'll take more rest days. Or maybe I just won't work out. Like, I don't know, like a new idea will come up because you're actually in the spontaneous present moment, which has no plan. Actually, it does. In a sense, there is like a plan, but what's so interesting about being psychic, or even if you have like a sense of what's coming, you can feel when new energy is coming into your field, even before your senses can decipher it. You can feel a new wind or new stuff coming in. But the ironic thing is that once you know yourself to be the field and you're enjoying that experience, you don't want to know. You want to let the universe surprise and delight you, because that's fun. When I was saying the known self takes everything it knows and it tries to replicate it, right? It takes this avenue and it projects the avenue into the future. So we believe we need this to get this. We need this to get this. It only can happen this way. This is just how things happen. So I'll tell you two stories. I like stories. I met a person, right, who completely changed my life. And he's a very magical human being. I mean, even what he does for a living is quite magical. And I could have never predicted how I was gonna meet this person. All I knew like in the moment. I was available to the moment, and I was like, wow, I really like this show on YouTube. It's really fun. It's called Buddha at the Gas Pump. I haven't watched it in years, and I knew that it was interesting. Once I saw that interview, like I never watched it again, because it was almost like the whole reason I even got into it was just to see this person's interview. So I saw his interview. It blew me away. I had a session with him. He helped me tremendously. He lives across the country. I get an email from him, a blast to his South Florida clients, saying that he will appear in Coral Gables, of all places, which is a little neighborhood in Miami where I live, at the Biltmore Hotel, which is where I got married. That's an interesting, like, kind of soul retrieval piece. Like, it's almost like a piece of my soul got left there, and he kind of helped me get it back. And I met him there. He was just passing through for the afternoon, and I happened to be in the neighborhood. And what happened from there was a cascade of magic and amazing experience and non-physical experience, like things that I could never have conceived of, could never have planned, right? A healed mind doesn't plan. A healed mind doesn't plan. A healed mind just goes with what is and follows the impulse. I could have never calculated that. Any of that. I just went with what I wanted to do, and it led me. So another quick story, right? Lately, I've been having an itch to travel. I haven't gone abroad in a while, partly because of the COVID stuff. And I was like, well, I would like to go somewhere exotic. I would like to hike, because I've been loving hiking lately when I'm in Sedona. And my friend, Maria, who has a 17-year-old daughter, she said, oh, Alex, my daughter's going to Reunion, which is this island next to Madagascar, for a month. And I can't go with her because the time difference won't let me do the work that I do. So can you just go with her, and, you know, you can stay where I was gonna stay and just go with her. And it's like, I'll take care of the trip for you. And I was like, okay. So I'm gonna spend a month in Africa, or in a French island off the coast of Africa. Could I have planned that? Could I have? No. All I know is that in my heart's desire is travel, always. It's always in my heart. I love experience, I love nature. Could I have predicted it? Nope. Because it's the unknown. When you're in the unknown, things have to appear in an unknown way, because the universe is holographic. So trust the unknown. It's so much more fun than this. This is so boring, and it's tight, and yeah, it might give you a sense of safety, but really when you practice self-realization and you realize there's nothing to protect yourself against, you are an undiminishable intelligence, you are the infinite universe, you are infinite potential. You don't need this anymore. You just don't need it anymore. But that being said, and I also want you to honor that everything that came before, everything that was in your past, everything that happened, every choice you made was perfect, because it's all one, right? So people ask me, aren't you kind of annoyed that you wasted your law career or wasted your law degree? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Law school was a blessing, because, you know, people say everything that you've done before will come in handy in the future. And I'm like, I'm never gonna mediate a divorce or do a toxic tort case or help someone with their will contest, or I'm not gonna do legal work anymore, but the essence of what law school did for me will never be lost, and it is actually very relevant to exactly what I'm doing now, which is law school makes you take a ton of information, like a ton of data, a ton of case law, statutes, constitutional law. It makes you take tons of information, distill it into simple logic, into a format that is easily digestible and deliverable, right? So in order to be able to write an essay about it, or, you know, in a limited time frame, you have to train your mind to take all this information and like make it efficient and simple. And you have to explain it to yourself well enough so that you can explain it to someone else. And that trained me for exactly what I'm doing right now. I take a lot of spiritual concepts, I take a lot of information, and I put it into a simple logic set that you can hopefully, I hope, digest and apply to your life. So life is perfection. Life is perfection, but it's much more fun when you let yourself be in the unknown. So that's my message for today. Have a beautiful, beautiful day.